Ois Dalet. Balderech zehu ba'avoda. Just as we explained earlier about the Seder of the Hamshocha, that it comes first through a Hamshocha Chitzonius, and then there comes a Pnimius. The similar idea is in the man's service to Hashem, as he explains in the Maimer. The beginning, how does a person begin his service to Hashem every day is through the service of davening. As the Rebbe brings down now that before the davening, you cannot do anything, because before the davening, a person is considered to be like sort of like Avodah Zorah, like a bama, like you worship Avodah Zorah on. As the pasuk says, "Chidlu lachem bin ha'adam asher neshama ba'apay." Stay away from the person whose neshama is in his nose, meaning he's just woken up. It's just before he davens. Stay away at that point, because the pasuk says, "Kibamen nechshavhu." What is he considered? What is his value? But al tikri bama elo bameh. Don't read it as bameh, but as bama. That before, in the morning, when the neshama is only be'apoy, it has not yet spread out, it just started, then he's like a bama. The Alter Rebbe and the Rebbe Marash explained, the koydem hatfilo nechshav ha'odam k'mei bama. Before davening, a person is considered like a bama. And then later on, he davens, utfila, huloshin his chavus. Tefillah, like it usually says, toifel kleicheres, it connects. You're connected. Shal yidei ha-tefillah miskasher ha'odam belakus. A person ties himself, instead of being a bama, separate, his own entity, he becomes connected and ties himself to godliness. So this is the beginning of the Avodah Sa'odam. So how does the Avodah Sa'odam work? Shemekoidem tzorich liyus hakiruv kloli. First needs to be the general closeness between Elokus and the person, which is hamshocha chitzonis, an external connection. As the Maimer explains what it is. And then following that becomes the inner closeness in a pnimiistic way, in an inner way, that the person ties himself to godliness in such a manner that he draws down godliness in all of his physical matter. That's the extent that the godliness is connected, and that it comes down all the ways in all of his material, all of his physical matters. And this essentially would actually brings down the essence, as we learned before. And we'll understand this. Before a person davens, he cannot start doing his work in the world, cannot connect. He needs the davening first to connect him to godliness of the world, and then he can start Avodas HaBirurim. The Yuvan Zeh, so this idea, Mashal Yidei HaTfilah B'Tchilas HaYom, B'Yichol L'Kasher Kol Inyonim HaGashmi, through the davening in the beginning of the day, he has the ability to tie all his physical matters. Some kelim lelakus, and to make them into vessels for godliness. Api Mashabir Habal Shem Tov, based on what the Baal Shem Tov explained, Inyan Isur Shila Sholim Koidem Hatfilo, the prohibition of greeting someone before the davening. Shual Derech Mashekosu B'Kisvei HaArizal, that this is similar to what is writing in the writings of the Arizal, be'inyan kibud ach hagadol. Why is there the idea of honoring the older brother? That there's a special honor that we need to give, just like there's a mitzvah to honor the father, there's also a mitzvah, there's an idea of honoring the older brother, the oldest brother. Shehu mipnei derucha hu deshavik bekavei. Because when the father gives birth, when this oldest brother is born, the level of ruach of the father remains in the oldest son. Shebeben ha'alef, that in the first son, yesh ruach ha'av yesem misharabonim. There is the spirit of the father more than the other sons. B'chol shar habonim. And then later on, when the other sons are born, neitlim merucha da'av al yidei ben horishin. They take from the spirit of the father by means of the first son. So the first son has it, and from the first son, it gets later on spread out to the other sons who get from it. And because of the spirit of the father, which is in the oldest brother, that's why they're obligated to honor him, just like they are obligated to honor the father. And so it's not just something second, it's part of honoring the father, because it's the father's spirit, the ruach, which is in the son. And that's why the Rebbe says in the bracket, that's why this halacha is learned from the verse. Esovicha tells us we're learning it, but it's like becomes part of honoring your father. There we learn because the honor of the older brother is included in honoring the father. The same thing is the thought, speech, and action as the person goes through the day. In the duration of the day, there's all the machshavas. They shekulam mistafim. They all branch out, v'nimshochim, and they extend. Achara dibur arishin. They follow the first dibur, just like the first son. The first dibur, the tefillah. That's the first thing, and from that tefillah extend everything else. And that's why the speech, and the same thing is true for the thought and the action. The first speech, action, and thought of the person, when he gets up from his sleep, needs to be in the service of Hashem. Mamshich kedusha b'chol hamachshava dibur ma'aser shaloi b'meshach kol hayom kulei. Through starting off the day with the dibur of tefillah or the machshava ma'aser in avodas Hashem, in the service of Hashem, then you bring down the kedusha and all machshava done for the entire day. So that is the beginning, the avodah, after you have the chitzonius connection. You have a pneumius connection through the person's davening or the machshava dibur. That's the first of the day. Specifically because his inner closeness to godliness at the time of davening, is at such a level that he draws down the godly light in his physical matters, that he makes them kelim to godliness. So this pnimisdik connection to tie your physicalities to elokus is dafke through this magiyim l'mayla yoser. You can reach higher. This is an avodah that through that kiruv pnimi you reach a higher level. Ki yodu as known be'inyan in the idea of rav tvuas b'koyach shoyer. There's lots of grain in the power of the ox. Once you harness the ox, you can get more grain than harnessing a donkey, because the ox, once you get it, then you have a lot of power to the ox. So when you are mevarer dinyonim hagashmim, you're mekasher all dinyonim hagashmim, you get the results on a much higher level.